Hi girls, just continuing to look at the factors that influence the formation of soil. You might remember we looked at parent material before and how the different parent material had an impact on the type of nutrients that we'd find in the soil, as well as the rate at which the parent material would break down. So now we're looking at climate and soil, and you may remember that we had looked at these questions in class. So now just talking you through how climate influences the soil. So the first point there is climate. Rainfall and temperature determine how quickly the parent rock is broken down by weathering and erosion. And these are two examples of how different types of climate influence that breakdown of rock. So in cold areas, freeze-thaw action breaks down rock slowly, creating thin soil. So this is a mechanical form of weathering. And as a result of taking longer, it means that taking longer to break down the rock, it means we'll only get a thin soil. In hot areas, then chemical weathering breaks down material much more quickly to form deep soils. So it actually dissolves the rocks rather than just breaking it into smaller pieces like freeze-thaw action. Wet areas then, they have a very specific type of process that influences them, and that's called leaching. If there's too much rainfall hitting the soils, what it'll do, it'll wash all the nutrients out of the top layers of soil into the lower layers of the soil. And as a result of doing that, it actually washes the nutrients beyond the reach of the roots of the plants. So the roots of the plants no longer get any nutrients, and therefore the soil is called infertile. In dry soil areas, then what can happen is that if the soil is really dry and really hard, it finds it really hard to soak up the rain, and again that makes them infertile. And if they are really hard, it means the roots of the plants can't infiltrate the soil anymore, and therefore we have very little vegetation growth as a result. Okay, so moving on to the next factor, this is relief. So what I'd like you to do now is I would like you to have a look at these statements. Sorry, I'll just go back. Okay, spend a couple of minutes looking at these two statements, and the video will pause now so that you can answer some questions and identify whether these are true or false. Okay, so now that you've had a little think about relief and how it might impact soils, let's talk through the different areas. So first of all, an upland area, because there's plenty more rainfall in upland areas because of relief rainfall, which we learned about in our weather, it can cause soils to be very wet, and as a result they get a lot of waterlogging. Waterlogging mean when they're completely saturated with water, and you might even see puddles on the top of the soil, letting us know that they're waterlogged. And as a result of that, it'll also cause leaching. So too much water, again, drawing all the nutrients out of the top layer of soil into the bottom layer. Then we have in upland areas, because it's upland, there's a lot more harsh climate, like colder temperatures, more wind, more rain. We have less vegetation in upland areas, and as a result of that, there's less humus, less plant litter from our vegetation that can be decomposed to make our humus. So as a result of that, knowing that humus is really fertile, our soils can be rather infertile as well. Looking at our lowland areas then and how this contrasts, what we have is in lowland areas our soils are deeper, as mass movement, which remember is gravity pulling all the materials down the slopes slowly, that causes some of the soils to accumulate in the lowland areas, and that's why we have much deeper soils as well. Another reason that the soils are slightly better in upland areas, lowland areas as well, is because they're usually very well drained by rivers and streams. So that means that water naturally flows off the land into rivers and streams, and therefore they're less likely to be waterlogged or leached. And so as a result of all of those things, the lowland then, the soils are generally more fertile as well, because usually having a better climate allows us for a better production of humus. So we have more vegetation, which means more plant litter. More plant litter gets broken down and decomposed to form our humus, which can get mixed into the soil. Okay, so the next factor that we're looking at then is time. So have a quick look at this question. So considering all the ingredients found in soil and all the processes that have to occur, how long do you actually think it might take for 1 centimetre of soil to form? So the video again is going to pause and allow you to answer a question. So what is the answer? Well, obviously depending on the parent rock, and how quickly that breaks down, it actually can take 400 years for 1 centimetre of soil to develop. And that length of time obviously completely depends on the parent rock. So we know that the parent rock, if it's a hard rock, might take longer to break down. If it's a soft rock, will take slightly less time to break down. Okay, so the final factor then that we're going to look at is human activity. And for this, again, I want you just to take the video pause again, take 2 minutes to consider the following questions. So the first one is, what type of human activities can make soil more fertile? And then what type of human activities will make soils infertile? Very good. So moving on then, what I would like you to do now for homework for the rest of the day, well sorry, not the rest of the day, but I want you to have a look at human activity. And using Google, I would like you to investigate how these human activities can make soil more fertile. So using Google, I want you to look at ploughing, fertilizers, irrigation, and then write your answers into your notes copy. And then after that, I would like you again to write into your notes copy how the following activities can make soil infertile. So removing vegetation through deforestation and overusing soil. Okay, so that's kind of like your little homework after watching this video, is to go and investigate those things. And at the end, I really like you, I'm going to set up an assignment page to photograph your work and what you've done on Google and to send it on to me so I have evidence of your learning. Thanks very much.